I'm in charge of introducing Cristina, and I'm very happy to do so. And I haven't seen you, Cristina, in some time via Zoom too, because we've been working. She's been working with us since last year, COVID time. So we've never been able to. We met before in conferences, but never be able to work together in person like that. But let me introduce her so she can start with her presentation. Cristina Ramírez is associate professor and the director of the Rhetoric, Composition, and Teaching of English program at the University of Arizona. Her USLDH-Mellon funded project is titled Recovering Barrio Rhetorics, a Discursive and Historical Remembering of Chicana border writer Ramona González. And I'll give you more information about that in a second. So the project emphasized the recovery of Ramírez Materna's abuela's writings. Her abuela, Doña Ramona González, was born in El Paso, Texas in 1906 and wrote short stories, poems. How do you say fabulas in English? How do you pronounce that?
Fables.
Fables. Thank you. I have never said that word in English before. Dichos and more in 1960 and 1975. As an early Chicana writer, she published some of her writings in the important Chicano literary journal of El Grito from 1967-1974, special issue Chicanas en la Literatura y el Arte de 1973. This project, however, focuses on Doña Ramona's 750 plus primary documents that she produced over her lifetime. 5 years ago, the González Hernandez family, Ramírez immediate family, uncovered these documents tucked away in a cardboard box. These documents have now all been digitized, and a large majority have been translated by Dr. Ramírez's father, Dr. Neil Devereux. This project's main goal is community accessibility of the primary document to the greater Latinx community. Go ahead, Cristina. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm so excited. And I actually, thank you, Caro, Gabby, Lorena. I'm so honored, and I'm like un poquito emocionada to be here. So I'm going to go about my presentation a little bit differently. I want to actually start off by giving an announcement that I'm really excited to let the Hispanic Recovery Project and everyone know. I just signed a book contract with Trinity University Press on this project. So, sí se puede, you all. Sí se puede. And, so I've been writing furiously for a month now, and it's really coming together, and it's an amazing thing to be able to cite my abuela in my writings. I'm citing her while I'm writing. The website is generating the citation with the Dublin core. It is amazing. And some of you all, I know you'll have bumps in the road as I did, but yes, you can. I'd like to open with a poem. And this poem is actually going to be on the first page of my book. I published it in 2001 in a literary journal called Border Senses that was just starting in El Paso about 20 years ago. And it is titled Abuela. And little did I know that this poem I was writing was almost prophetic of what I am doing now. Abuela, the fragile days I spend with you have broken into a million pieces. No estás aquí. I can hear your cuentos y dichos in my mind like echoes through a canyon. The memories mix with the smell of guiso y calabazas. Your wisdom is the first sign of spring on a winter afternoon. It too resides in me. Before, I would not let the wisdom in. I thought it to be old-fashioned, like a song that no one sings anymore. Abuela, me has dejado un gran plato, servido con palabras de tu juventud. Abuela, I feel you now, como el sol en las espaldas de una mujer sin blusa. I embrace you now like a child embraces her mother for the last time. Abuela, si estás aquí. History is a community's collective remembering of events, people, and places, and can easily disappear if we don't write our stories, don't question the long-standing narratives, or fail to recover new and even possibly lost perspectives. When these events coalesce, history fades. Part of the fading of history, too, is caused by the exclusion of voices of the greater community, people who experienced an event or place firsthand. If the voices of the local people are hidden, then certainly women's voices are absent. The history and literary texts of the US-Mexico borderlands is particularly one-sided, told all too often from the perspective of men. Borderland histories, which are now truly like national lore, todos saben quién es Pancho Villa, right? Are many times violent and based on a male mythology of war, railroads, banditos, saloons, conquest, bootlegging, and politics. Its mythical narrative marginalizes and silences other voices from being heard. Speaking specifically about women from El Paso, Texas, Luis Marchino notes, many of women's stories have become part of oral history and folklore. Folklore only, never written at all, or never published, or expressed in letters and diaries long ago discarded. With women's voices almost absent from the history of El Paso borderlands, its history remains incomplete. In 2016, the National Trust for Historic Preservation recognized a trend of fading history in the El Paso borderlands, such that they included two of its barrios, Barrio Chihuahuita and Segundo Barrio, to the list of America's 11 most endangered historic places. The charge of this designation asks that the El Paso community preserve and recover new voices. To bring a new perspective, I recover the lost stories about Chihuahuita and Segundo Barrio, written down by Doña Ramona, my maternal grandmother, and weave them in with my family's stories and prevailing borderland historic moments. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit so you can see some pictures of Doña Ramona with my grandfather, Don Manuel González. This was about 1930. And here's a dicho from one of the ones that my grandmother recorded and kind of changed up a little bit for her own liking. Un cuento de cuentos, a story of stories. ¿A dónde vas, Vicente? Voy a donde va la gente. ¿A dónde vas, John? Voy a la revolución. By both luck and providence, my family holds a magical possession, a collection of 750 pages of poetic and autobiographical writings by my maternal grandmother, and that remained hidden from our family's knowledge for over 30 years. And now it is all digitized and accessible thanks to U.S. Hispanic Recovery Project. Doña Ramona González, whose writings are the impetus for this project, was our family storyteller. At gatherings after the evening meal, and as the sun had set in the Chihuahuan sky, the sobremesa would turn to the history of the González family neighborhood on Missouri Street. We would laugh at our tío's jokes and tell tales of visiting spirits and ghosts. Without fail, Doña Ramona, sitting at the head of the table, would recount the family's legend of La Bruja de Missouri Street. Her words, a mezcla of Spanish and English, would grip our imaginations while she conjured witches, dark alleyways, and full moons. I always wondered whether she had written these stories down. It was only after finding her writings in a cardboard vegetable box that my family came to see her as a scribe, and perhaps one of El Paso's community too. Her writings have since created a trenza, a braid of words, rhymes and stories from a far West Texas barrio, the recovery of Doña Ramona's writings, threads together the legado and the trenza of these writings and tells the history surrounding their production and now preservation. So this is the very beginning of my book project. And so I wanted to share with you all this project now that I'm embarking after finishing this project, and walk you through a little bit of the things that I did with this project. First of all, I want to say that coming into this project, I knew very little about digital humanities. Some of the archiving activities that I was engaged with before I came to US Hispanic Recovery Project, I didn't realize was also digital humanities. Before I started this project, I had already scanned all 750 documents, started the translation, as Carolina had said, and also created my own finding aid for this document. So I was well along the way to creating this digitized online archive of my grandmother's writings. And so that really, because I had a real start on this project, I was able to really get this up in this year. So I've been working on this project now for about 5 or 6 years, and it's been poco a poco that I've been doing this. But here is the final product of the Ramona González papers. If you'll notice here on the table on the right, I have all of the different genres that my grandmother wrote in. She had over 250 pages of dichos and sayings. I hear that some of you are scholars de Español, de literature. You might want to go in there and check out her dichos. She has a section called cuadros. These are like one-page enumerations on one single topic. She has one called Los Libros that is really important. Dia de Campo. She has many in there. She also has creative nonfiction. These are a little bit longer, but she wrote this one fabulous one called Por vida de estas santas cruces, yo viví en estos barrios, like a swearing that by her life that she lived in Barrio Chihuahuita and also Segundo. That story is very much like a Shakespearean play almost, ending with a wedding and everything. She wrote fables, fábulas, poems, cuentos, and then she has also just some miscellaneous writings. That's 15 minutes, 15, 16 minutes. I'll I'll actually stop sharing my screen and open it up to any questions that you all might have. Josephine?
Yeah, this is interesting because I have so my great grandmother had 9 kids, and we've recently had, like a reunion a couple of years back. Not all of the descendants could come forward, but one of my cousins, which would have been my mother's first cousin, was a educator in San Diego, and he began writing the history, collecting oral histories, doing the research. Anyway, he passed away, and just by fluke, and his family didn't want anything to do with that writing. I don't know them, but I remember him growing up. But by a fluke, one of my other cousins, who's an educator at Cal State San Marcos, is friends with a woman that does documentation. And this woman brings this satchel of stuff and gives it to my cousin. And it is the historical writings that my cousin had been putting together. And that cousin then gave me all of those documents. I got to tell you, it was just given to me recently. I knew it was there. I've known it was there for a couple of years, and I've been asking it for it. But but within the last month, all of this material has come to me, and I just have it in my room because I haven't been able to even touch it, open it, or look at it.
Is this your project?
It's not my project, but listening to you, I'm thinking that's probably my next project.
Yes.
But and I don't even know how much is in there. I'm telling you that this satchel is probably that big, that thick, and so I've got to go through that. So I'm just amazed. I'm just blown away. You took
it is
in this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. It's been a lot of work, I mean, we have the actual physical documents are now sitting at the Latin American Benson collection. And I have retained copyrights along with my aunt Norma Hernandez. And we have translated and transcribed just about everything. It's been a lot of work. So the work that you see that I've done is just the tail end. And now, for you all to think broadly about your projects is that you can write books on this. And these writings are going to be recovered now in book form as well. Caroline?
Thank you and congratulations. You mentioning the book is a segue to my question. What do you see as the relationship between the digital project and your book? How did creating the project inform the book? What ways might you see them living together in the future and interacting off of one another?
Yeah, well, having spoken to the acquisitions editor there at Trinity University Press, they were super impressed that this was already, that these documents were, were going to be online. And so I think that the connection is that now writing this book is so much easier now that I have these documents online. And as I was saying in the beginning of my presentation, I'm able to cite my grandmother with an actual site that the readers will be able to go to online. It gives it legitimacy beyond that of just sitting in at the archive at the Latin American Benson collection, because they haven't done anything. It's just sitting there and everything. But the connection is there's a legitimacy, there's an aliveness to it. It's there. that's what I'm saying, you know, citing my abuela when I'm writing this stuff, it me da, you know, I'm super excited about it, because at the very beginning of this project, I had actually sat down to start to write the book, but then I realized, ugh, I can't, because everything was so disorganized. It was all over the place. They weren't in alpha order. They weren't in genre order. So doing this project just organized my thinking about her writings so much more. And I'm telling you, and I told Linda, are you there? Linda? Yes, Linda's there. They couldn't believe that I had written 2 book proposals during the pandemic. These are just, they're coming out of me now. Like my abuela, she's like, ándale, let's get this stuff up there and published and to the people.
Thank you.
Can I just add, I mean, this is an amazing, congratulations, Cristina. I mean, we knew that this project was, it's foundational for many reasons. I mean, maybe you can also mention a little bit about the theoretical terms that you've also created to, you know, to contextualize some of the work that you're doing. So in that regard, I mean, I think we're able to see how the recovery of the voices of women, the power of these archives, Cristina has been able to also document, you know, all the work that goes into this, like the translation, the digitizing, all of that, right? But it also ties to something that we were talking about, that as the more that you work with your data, the easier it is for that data to begin to call for different ways of visualizing and sharing of that data. And I think, I mean, this project is just so amazing. When we saw this grant application with the initial set of grantees, we knew this was, I mean, this is what the recovery exists for, right? And this is, we're just so empowered by this. And again, you know, I mean, we love I can't say enough about all these projects. You know, we're just big fans of everything that's coming out of this, and of course, because this is getting to be shared more widely, and we get to see how our ancestors are there through us. They live in us. You know, we continue to make them visible through these elements. But I'll let you speak, Cristina.
Gabby, and you know, and I want to you know, there's 2 ways that I've theorized this. So I have an article that came out this past summer in Latinx Writing and Rhetorics Studies, and it's called Rhetorical Herencia. And I write that as a method and a theory grounded in this project. And in this book, I come up with a very different kind of theory, trenzando, una trenza, because, you know, I could have said, just left it at the triangle, pero eso no quiere decir nada. It's not grounded in who I am. So I articulate the method of a trenza or trenzando that braids and weaves my writing with my grandmother's writing and my father's translations. And so this is the theory that you know, the method and the visualization of this, so that you can see it. And I articulate it in the introduction of this book. And if you can do that with your writing, it gives you, with your project, it gives you a much more grounded and personal connection to your writings.
Cristina, do you want to mention any kind of tips for the grantees? Maybe like what you wish you had known then?
You know, I ask people for help. People are going to crowdsource your project because people are willing to help. I was able, with the funds from the project, I was able to hire Reese Davis, who couldn't be here on this presentation with us, but she was the one who did the Omeka and the uploading and all of that. On my side, I had already digitized everything and had done the Excel sheet. That scared me to death, but approaching it and working with it and staying with it, I think is the best tip that I can give. And reach out and ask Linda and Lorena for help. They're amazing scholars themselves and know a lot about this.